there's the psychologist, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She has a theory about the Black man in America. She says that because of the system of racism, the Black man in this country has come to think of himself as a baby, a not yet fully formed being who realizes his full potential. To support her claim, she offers the following. 1. What does a Black man call his woman? Mama. 2. What does a Black man call his closest friends? His homeboys. And finally, what does a Black man call his place of residence? His crib.
In the system of racism, white supremacy, there are 5 people categories. Man, woman, boy, girl, baby. Who is the man? I said, here comes the man, you all. Why are you all so quiet?
The man, white man.
The man is the white man. Any other male has 4 choices. Black men fought historically, don't call me no boy. Is that right?
Right.
The white supremacists say, okay, you got 3 choices. Woman, girl, or baby. It used to be that woman and girl were out. Baby was in. How many black ladies have called the black man that they are highly familiar with baby? Y'all better tell me. See, lying to yourself. How about that? You've read the book. How many gentlemen have called the lady that they're familiar with mama? Hey mama, can I ride with you? Let's get a witness. How many gentlemen have called the place where they sleep a crib? Are you following this?
Still do.
Man who calls himself baby calls the woman he sleeps with mama. Calls the place where he sleeps a crib. Will call himself what? A motherfucker. Are you all with me?
Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is known for her analysis of the psychology of the social dynamics of race and racism. In her influential work, she discusses the concept of the Black man as a boy within the context of white supremacy and its impact on the African American community. According to Dr. Welsing, the Black man's portrayal as a boy is a deliberate strategy employed by white supremacists to perpetuate racial hierarchies and maintain their dominant position in society. She argued that the portrayal serves to infantilize and undermine the power and agency of Black men, reinforcing racial stereotypes that perpetuate their subjugation. Dr. Welsing contended that this portrayal has deep historical roots in the transatlantic slave trade and the subsequent oppression of African Americans. She believed that the dehumanization of Black men as boys is a psychological tactic aimed at justifying their mistreatment, discrimination, and exclusion from positions of power. Furthermore, Dr. Welsing explored how this portrayal affects the psyche and self-perception of Black men. She argued that the constant exposure to negative stereotypes and the denial of their manhood can lead to a sense of powerlessness, low self-esteem, and internalized racism within the African American community. Dr. Welsing's assessment of the Black man as a boy underscores the broader systematic issues of racism and white supremacy that continue to pervade society. By highlighting the psychological impact of such portrayals, she aimed to raise awareness and encourage African Americans to challenge and overcome these harmful narratives. It is important to note that Dr. Welsing's views were subject to both praise and criticism within the academic and public discourse. However, her work remains influential in discussions of race and racism and the psychological effects of systematic oppression on marginalized communities. Welcome to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, PC, Professor Carl Tone Jones. We are here. This is on the shoulders of giants. We're breaking down the Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's theory of the black male can never be a man. You see in the opening clips, I did my own rendition of the opening scene of Baby Boy. So we will be looking at aspects and characters from that movie, but overall going over what Dr. Welsing was talking about and seeing how that applies to black men today. Are black men today behaving as boys? Has the system of white supremacy caused black men to internalize inferiority, to look at ourselves as less than the white man, to look at ourselves as something that can't be a man, a true man within the system of white supremacy? And remember, all of this is under the context and under the umbrella of the system of white supremacy. Are black males, can a black male become a black man? Can a black boy become a black man under the system of white supremacy? We started with PC last week. Pat, I'm gonna start with you. Broad, straightforward question. Can black males become black men under the system of white supremacy?
Uh, yeah, until a white man walk in the room.
Explain.
Um, I mean, so can a black male be a man under the system of white supremacy? Well, manhood. Speaking in terms of anthropology, culture, society, things of that nature, is a component of the three P's. PC talks about this a lot too. Um, so a black man could fulfill the roles of those three P's, and could garner a level of respect and have a level of authority, uh, in a room or in an environment, in a social situation or a social setting, and have be viewed as the representative of fully formed masculine energy until a white man walks in the room.
Mm-hmm.
At which point, it's not even so much that a black man can't have that space, so much as it's that a lot of black men nowadays would give up that role. They would relinquish it voluntarily and willingly to the white man that walks in that room. Now, again, this depends on the space and the man, but we're speaking in general terms. Um, if you're in a business meeting or something like that, I've seen this happen numerous times where you're in a business meeting or even at a business gathering. Um, and white men who typically dominate those spaces, even if the black men in those spaces are more successful than the white men, they will relinquish a level of authority to the white men entering those spaces. Again, I've seen that happen numerous times. Um, when it comes to academics or intellectual pursuits, um, even in terms of creative pursuits, when we look at how we'll relinquish creative control for somebody that has more business acumen, and I'm trying to generalize the sentiment that's involved in sports and entertainment, music, and stuff like that, how a lot of us will defer to white managers or white corporations that own entertainment industries, like the music companies or the production companies or blah 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 blah. So can a black man be a man under the system of white supremacy? Yes, until a white man enters the room.
Mm-hmm.
But can a black
Mm-hmm.
man be a man in the black community regardless? Yes. I think that's a yes too. Go ahead.
So we're talking about hierarchies,
Yes.
because the only way a black man will lose his place as a man in the room when the white man comes in is everybody has to already know and understand that white men are the man. It's understood.
Right.
And
I
it's
mean,
understood.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, it's a part of that black tax slash white credit we talked about last week. That applies to everything, including the hierarchy of where you're positioned in a room full of people. Um, if 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 a white person walks in the room, they're already giving credit just for being in the room. A black person that's in that room has to prove that they deserve to be there. A white person sitting at the table is a credit to everybody else at the table automatically. A black person at that table has to prove that they deserve to be at that table. Otherwise, they are a discredit to themselves and to everybody else at that table. Again, it all ties into me.
Gotcha. I mean, I think, like you said, the white credit more so. I'm talking more so of the white credit than the black tax. White people have, I would say, beat it into us literally and figuratively and mentally, emotionally, psychologically. They've beat their dominance into us. Um, when we have terms, because we have the term, and like Dr. Wilson talked about, if you look at that whole video, she talked about it. We literally call white people the man. It was part of the culture, part of the black exploitation movies and the songs and stuff. Like the white man was literally called the man because it was literally beat into us. We talk about the epigenetics that comes into play in this. We we have the biological memory of being literally physically oppressed, but we also have the memory of being psychologically, mentally, spiritually oppressed by the white man as well. So same to you, PC. Can a black male become a black man under the system of white supremacy?
No. Oh,
Straightforward.
you want me to elaborate? Okay. So, no, because, and this is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to this whole idea about patriarchy and
Hmm.
why black men are not, can never be patriarchs. This system of patriarchy only allows for one group of men to be established as the masculine friend, to be established as the men of said tribe, of said country, of said nation. So this is the white man's nation. The institutions, the system of white supremacy that we currently reside under, there's only room for one man. We can wear his shoes, but as Patrick said, when he walked into the room, we got to get out those shoes because he's going to be wearing them. It's not like he's saying, "Oh, you have a pair of shoes and I'm going to wear some too." No, Negro, get out of my damn shoes. You know your place, you know your role, and we do acquiesce to white folk. We not even just white men, white women too, because they share in that patriarchal power over us. And you know, I always jot down a few things. So, just for instance, when you want to talk about being a man and being men, that means you have to declare that. During, you know, the end of the Civil War, although black folk fought for freedom, you never hear that when you talk about Juneteenth is coming up. You never hear that black people fought for freedom. You hear that freedom was granted to black people by their former owners. That means we needed their permission to be free. See, when you have power, you make those determinations, and that's what determines the men of your said tribe, your nation, your village, your country, so forth and so on. And we don't have that. And like you juxtapose that with the War of Independence that was fought by this country in the 1700s. They wrote a Declaration of Independence. They signed their name on that document knowing that it was treason to the crown of Great Britain. knowing that they literally signed their death warrant on it. And that Patrick Henry, one of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence, said, "Give me liberty or death." Those are statements of men. And I'm not trying to say that white men are the only men. What I'm saying is we haven't had a Declaration of Independence for black people in this country. We have taken what they have given us. Even when we defend ourselves utilizing their laws and their policies, you just, and we see that we don't have the same access, that we have to be granted permission from them. What man do you know that needs to be granted permission? If the three of us are sitting in the classroom right now and you had to utilize the restroom, are you going to wait for somebody to give you permission, or are you going to liberate yourself from your chair and actually go to the restroom? Those are the things that we're dealing with. And when it comes to the dynamics, it's a power dynamic that determines whether or not we can be men. And unfortunately, we have been rendered powerless by this system, and then we refuse to do the things that will gain us power, because many of us feel as though I rather stand alone and deal with the responsibilities that will come with a liberated mindset and a liberated way of moving, because you have to be responsible for yourself independently of the things you get from this society. A lot of us have said, well, let's just acquiesce because we can still have fun over here. We can still watch the ball game over here. We can still chase tail over here. We can still, go to the man and beg for and request jobs, employment. We're not even talking about, and when we build our own stuff, we're still worried about the man coming in and taking it from us. See, we're not even planning for the fact that, if you want peace, you have to be willing to wage war to get it. We want peace, but not by any means necessary. And if that means shaving off our testicles and being and being stags up in here, then that's what we'll be.
So,
But as of right now, we can't. We haven't accepted that
so
responsibility.
is power synonymous with manhood?
How is it not? So if you're a man, then you have to have the power to protect, provide. That means you have to go out and make sure that you are capable of attaining provision. Well, how can you do that without power? Right now, financially speaking, our money is power, but we don't spend it in a way that makes us powerful. We don't utilize it in a way that's going to make us a power or a threat to the current power. So we're even afraid to do that. And there's so many different times where black men tried to be men, only to be undercut by other black men and black women, only to be betrayed by other black men and black women,
Okay.
because even they don't have confidence in the fact that we can be men that stands against the so-called man and establish our own liberated power.
So with that being said, and I want to get feedback from both of you on this. With that being said, well, let me ask you, Pat. Pat, do you agree that manhood is synonymous with power? You have to have some kind of power to have true manhood, especially in this world and under system white supremacy.
Yeah, yeah. I think power is mandatory to
Okay.
to be a to be an adult, but especially to be a man.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, because when you was talking, you made me think about something. I had to write it down. So we black men in America, especially, we lack true power because we don't have that position of the man. We lack true power. So because we lack true power, we are still men, we're still males, and we're still human beings. And males and human beings have a nature to conquer, whether we want to agree with it or not, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. We have a nature to conquer. So because we know we can't conquer the white man in our current state. Do you all think we're violent against each other and we try to conquer each other to feel a sense of power?